Previously on Balls.
We don't just talk about football, but we are going to talk mostly about football now. I want to call this lad Viv. If you look on Twitter, Happy Lux, at Happy Lucks, is a man called Viv Pike. His scheme, listening to us every week, where we're backed by TopOdds, at TopOdds.com. His scheme is that we will bet £500, 500 Rand, I would say pounds, 500 Rand every week over the next 5 weeks on who's going to win the World Cup. I think that's fascinating because if you get in early with these bets, you do get better odds than closer to the competition. We've got the draw coming up in a week and a half's time for, who's going to be in what group in Brazil next year. Obviously, South Africa haven't qualified. They came very, very close against Ethiopia. But Viv, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So this, guys, for your information, this is Viv Pike. I don't know Viv very well. I only know him through Twitter. The same as Leon Petzer, another man who helps us out with our charity bets on with TopOdds.com. This is a new idea, Viv, that we've come up with, thanks to you and Leon, where we put bets on. If we lose the bet, we all have to bite our nails and bang our heads against walls. If we win the bet, the money goes to Wings of Change, our charity, which I've seen up close and personal in a couple of these golf days and stuff. A brilliant charity that helps people that need help. We're hoping, using your 500 Rand and Leon Petzer's, I think is he putting 1,000 with us today? We're going to make 3 bets today. With you now, Viv, I want to know, why do you want me to bet on the World Cup? What is your interest here, and who do you think might be a good bet?
Well, Neil, this is actually, it's all actually thanks to Leon. He came up with this idea, and Wings of Change is a brilliant initiative that Balls is doing. And Leon and I have been speaking, and he came up with this idea that with the World Cup coming up now, we put some cash on it, and if we make any money, which hopefully we will do, or you will do,
yes,
that goes through to the Wings of Change. And we discussed it, and I thought it was actually quite a bloody good idea.
Yes.
So, this is where it initiated from. And, I enjoy my watching football. It's a fantastic sport that we watch.
Yes.
And with the World Cup coming up next year, we thought, okay, well, let's start putting some bets on and see if we can make some cash. And, let's take it and see where we go. Now, as far as who do I want to win, there's always the head and the heart story. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, South Africa is not in it.
Yes.
But now we're looking at there's probably 5 or 6 of the normal culprits who you could say they've got a good chance of winning. You've got the Germanys, your Hollands, your Spains, etc.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, anybody really could take it. Now, I don't know if I'd like to say Spain is going to do it again. The way they've been playing lately, who knows? South Africa beat them if we didn't qualify. But being in South America, there's a good chance that one of those teams could do it. Brazil is also one of those that you could say stands a damn good chance. Then you've got the likes of Chile. But I'm not a betting man per se. I don't really go to the odds, and I don't look at what the odds are. But if one of the teams that has got good odds on at the moment, when is the draw taking place? That's next week, right?
Yeah, the draw is in about 8 days' time.
Yeah. So if they're on a worthy team, then I'd say, let's put some money on it. And I was wondering, somebody like Germany or Holland or even one of the South American franchises, Chile maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the odds are.
Well, but, I am a betting man, Viv, and I am. I've watched World Cup since probably I think I was 5 when England last won the World Cup in 1966. I've seen North Korea nearly beat Portugal when they had Eusebio. I've seen Senegal beat France, where every Senegalese player was based out in France and every French player was based outside France. I've seen Cameroon beat Argentina. I've seen 40-year-olds do things and 16-year-olds do things in the World Cup. I can tell you this, it's not easy to predict a World Cup winner, even though Spain looked like such an unbelievable power. But as we saw last week, and this is your classic, isn't it, Viv? Yes, that last week, Spain come to celebrate their World Cup success in 2010 on the same ground, and Bafana, with all the odds against them, go out there and they beat them and made them look a bit silly, I thought. We had.
And
yeah, go on.
Beat them fair and square.
Yeah, beat them fair and square. Thank you very much, Viv. So that's the problem that we have, isn't it? That's the problem with sports betting. That's why I think that sports betting in this country is at a pretty growth phase at the moment. Top Odds compare back this program because of that. I think that this is a fascinating bet. I think to have 500 rand every week for 5 weeks, before and after our Christmas break, we'll be able to capitalise on the pre-draw phase, so you get quite a good odds now. After the draw's made, people will shift their odds a little bit, depending who's in this. Is there a group of death, that kind of thing? Are we going to find Germany in the same group as someone like Uruguay and Mexico, for instance? Viv, you said to me, I think you were looking at Holland, weren't you, at one point?
Yeah, I actually quite fancy Holland, eh? They're top of their log at the moment, top of their group at the moment. They seem to be playing pretty well. Looking at the goal differences, I think that the last time I checked, I think they had a positive goal difference of like 26, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
They seem to be sort of like firing on cylinders at the moment. So I don't know. I would, like I said, I'm not really a betting person per se. I am a sports person. I enjoy watching sports. But you being a betting person, you might have a better insight or a better gut feel than what I would. I don't know where Leon fits into the equation as far as betting is concerned, and that what his gut feel is. But also at the same token, I don't know what the current odds are. So
20-1 to Holland.
Yeah, Holland are 20-1. That's based largely. I mean, I know they've got a great side.
Yeah.
I know they did well in qualifying. I know Robin van Persie is the arch goal scorer of the moment, and in a year's time, I don't expect him to suddenly become too old. Although he is, getting on a little bit in football terms. I think Holland are a very good idea. I think that they will have enormous support in Brazil. They have enormous travelling support. The Dutch very quietly, and I think that Holland is a very, very good idea. But I do worry that a European side has never won the World Cup in Latin America. The conditions aren't conducive. There won't be altitude to worry about like there has been in Mexico, twice, where the European sides always get this kind of altitude, fear of altitude and fear of the heat. I think in Brazil it won't quite be like that. We're going to have a look. Viv, thank you for this initiative. Thank you for backing Bollocks and allowing us to put this 500 Rand charity bet on the World Cup side. I'm now going to talk to Brandon from Top Odds. We're going to go through www.TopOdds compare and have a look at their World Cup odds, and we will come up with a solution. I know you're at an airport at the moment, so you're going to be struggling to actually listen to us, but I'm going to put this video will go up on topodds.com a little bit later. I'll also blog it and have a look at what we decide. I'll also be in contact with you a little bit later when you land. Is it Durban you're going to?
No, I'm in Durban going back to Port Elizabeth.
You're in Durban going back to Port Elizabeth. Okay, mate. Yeah. I'd love to do that flight. That's a lovely flight, that. I heard, listen, just on a purely non-football thing, is there a suggestion they're going to build a motorway from Durban to Port Elizabeth soon? Have you heard that anywhere?
There's been rumours around that for a long time, but I believe that the snag was through the Wild Coast. They didn't want to deface the Wild Coast, that area.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. It would really open it up, though, wouldn't it? It'd be interesting. All right, we shouldn't talk about roads on Bollocks, but there we are. We took a lot of bollocks here. Viv, thank you,
right.
and we'll be in constant touch, won't we? Comfort, my producer, and I, and Maz, our accounting wizard.
Good stuff.
And we will try and find you 5 different bets on the World Cup. We're not going to start with our favourites. I mean, the favourites have to be Brazil. Brazil at the moment, 3-1, 33-10. If you go on the Top Odds site, you look at LM Bookmaker and World Sports Betting, we've got Brazil at 3-1 or 33-10, having won the Confederations Cup at home. Brazil have to be favourites at home. And then you've got Argentina 5-1 or 4-1 with LM Bookmaker and World Sports Betting. Then, the third side are Germany. Not Holland. Holland, actually, and this is the staggering thing, are listed below England by LM Bookmaker. England, actually, that's not quite true. They're the same on World Sports Betting, both 20-1, Holland and England. I know. I was coached by Roy Hodgson when I was a kid. We know England aren't going to win the World Cup. Okay, I can promise anyone listening now, I can promise you England aren't going to win the World Cup. Steven Gerrard is 106. Frank Lampard is getting into his 90s. Ashley Cole, these guys are old, and we don't have enough young talent coming through. There's very similar conditions between South Africa and England in that way. Yeah. Holland, on the other hand, are also 20-1, 25-1 England, 20-1 LM Bookmaker with Holland. So I'm going to look very carefully at Holland, and actually I'm starting to think you might be right. It could be,
just a quick question: How many nations have won a World Cup on home turf?
lots. Argentina.
9.
World
The most recent
Cup
was France, wasn't it?
Winners, 98 France.
98, yeah.
Yes. Then you've also got, and France only ever won the World Cup at home. England only ever won the World Cup at home. Argentina won at home, but they've won others as well. Germany won the World Cup at home. The host nation status is massive in a World Cup. We know that.
Yeah.
South Korea and Japan, when they hosted it, got further than they'd ever got in the World Cup before, didn't they? Remember that?
Yeah.
And so we're looking at a situation where, yes, the host nation normally does well. The one that really shocked us was 82 Spain, when the Spanish actually didn't get there, and that was won by Italy, wasn't it, with Rossi scoring all those goals. So there are occasions when it doesn't happen, but yeah, Viv, it's a very good point. If you host the World Cup, you have a far better chance of winning it. We know that without any question. In 1930, the very first World Cup ever held, Uruguay hosted it, Uruguay won it. In 1934, the second World Cup, the first one ever held in Europe, Italy hosted, Italy won.
Italy won it, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what we're looking at. And in recent years, in 2006, Italy won it in Germany. And in 2002, Brazil won it in South Korea and Japan. But then we go to 98, France in France.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we go Argentina in Argentina, West Germany in West Germany, England in England. So there is that going on. So we're going to look very carefully. Fifth, believe me, I don't take these bets lightly, mate. I'm trying to make money for charity. I am angst-ridden over where these 500 rand bets go.
Well, I trust your judgment to the fullest.
Thanks, Vivi, and we'll be back to you, okay? And we'll talk about this over the next few weeks. Either side of the Christmas break, we'll be putting these bets on the World Cup. And I think today, I'm going to speak to Brandon as well, but I think today we might just put our 500 on Holland. I have a great love of Robin van Persie, and they do have a very good squad. And they shock everyone. I think they got to a final in Latin America, the Dutch, when Cruyff and Neerskens were playing. No, Cruyff didn't play in that, did he? There was a time, I think it was it 78? And 78, I think they got to the final, or 74 in West Germany as well. So they have got to a final, Holland, before in Latin America. Let's think about it. Viv, have a good flight. Good luck, mate, and we'll be back to you. And I will confirm this Dutch bet if we go with it. Thanks, Viv. Right, So now we need to get hold of Brandon, don't we? Because Brandon's our betting expert from TopOdds.com. We need to discuss. Let me just look at this. We've got Brazil favourites, right, at home. We know that. Argentina 5-1, 4-1. Ellen Bookmaker and World Sports Betting. You go, guys, if you're listening, go to www.topodds.com. They very quickly, because we only just decided, I think, who were the last side to qualify? Beating Jordan. It was Europe. Was it Uruguay? Brandon, it's Neil Collins. How are you, mate?
All right, and you now?
Brandon, I'm very, very good. TopOdds.com, who back bollocks. Brandon and I talk most weeks. Brandon, we've got an exciting new innovation here, introduced by a man called Viv Pike, with help from Leon Petzer, our old friend. These are lads that on Twitter have decided to offer us money to help the Wings of Change golf charity. The Wings of Change charity, if you and I can come up with a decent bet here on the World Cup at this time, that bet will look very, very impressive in a year's time when the World Cup starts. The World Cup will have been finished by this time next year, won't it? So we're looking, Brandon, at the World Cup. Then we're going to move to Leon Petzer's bets. I'm starting to think that maybe it might be worth betting on some Ashes cricket for that. But let's just, Brandon, I've gone to www.topodds.com. I've gone to your World Cup Brazil 2014 outright winner section, and we're looking down the list with Viv Pike, who knows a bit about football, international football in particular. He thinks that the Netherlands, Holland might be the best bet at 20-1. We've got Italy at 18-1, which surprises me a lot with Ellen Bookmaker. What do you think about Holland, Brandon?
Well, funny you mentioned that, because I got your voice message before the game, and I had a look at the markets just before we spoke. And the Netherlands was the side that jumped out. I mean, I can't believe that price. Both bookmakers, World Sports Betting and Ellen Bookmaker, offering 20-1. Geez, that's got to be a little bit of value. And, I was having a look as well. Spain at 6-1 with World Sports Betting. I mean, they're the defending champions. I don't know if they'll defend the title, but they'll give you a run for your money, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because what Kevin Johnson said to me, the SuperSport guy, he watched the Spain-South Africa game. He said he doesn't think Spain are going to feature. He thinks Spain are starting to hit that post-success dip that all nations have. The Germans have had it, the Brazilians have had it, even the Italians have had it quite seriously, and the French. He thinks Spain are hitting a World Cup dip. He doesn't think Spain are going to be strong contenders in Brazil. I find that surprising. They have such a great midfield. And even though they don't, I mean, Torres should have played against South Africa, then things might have been different. So I've got to look at Spain. If we're going to take a European side, of course, that would be the big thing, wouldn't it? And of course,
definitely.
I think the last side to qualify were Croatia, weren't they, with that Jordan game? We've now got TopOdds.com have done well here. We've got all the qualifying nations in a nice list on www.topodds.com, and you can scroll down that list, and it is absolutely fascinating because I really rate Colombia, right? They've got top players playing all over Europe, and they're 25-1. England are shorter odds in some places than Colombia. That's madness. Absolute madness. And 30-1, I've got them, World Sports Betting say 30-1 Colombia. Next week, I'm going to go on Colombia, I think. But this week, I think the Netherlands don't look a bad bet to me. Have you seen Portugal 40-1? How can England be better odds than Portugal? This is bizarre.
It's a sad day when you think that Colombia and England would be the same price to win an international tournament.
It doesn't make any sense, though.
But I mean, you also can't not look at Argentina and Brazil. I mean, this World Cup's in their backyard.
Yeah.
And that could potentially be a final. I'm not sure what the draw is in terms of when they meet, if they will meet before the final. But I think, you back those two sides and you'll be in the semis.
Yeah. Absolutely right, but that's what the bookies are saying as well. Don't forget, the World Cup draw hasn't actually taken place yet. So
that's correct. Right?
So when the World Cup draw takes place, all these odds, will change. People will look at the various groups and say, well, that's the group of death. That Portugal are going to be even more hard pressed to come out of a group that might include, say, I think Portugal will be in the second pot, won't they? And the top pot could give them Brazil, and the third pot could give them someone like the USA. A lot of people talking about what a useful little side the USA have become. And the USA 80-1 in some places, 150-1 in others, and then we come right down to, I like this, Greece 400-1. Even though Greece qualified nicely against Romania in the World Cup playoffs, they've got players playing at the top level in Europe, but as normal, Greece are 400-1, and they are the big outsiders at this point. Putting £500 on them is very tempting because how much would we get back? Billions, and Wings of Change could kind of.
Yeah, I think if you back Greece at that price, you could probably buy the country if they could.
Oh yes. Although I've got to say, during the World Cup, didn't they stay at the Beverly Hills in this country, Greece, or was it the Oyster Box down in Mshlanga? I think they spent.
I have no idea, but they had a very good holiday.
They spent a large tranche of their own of Greece's money, and at the time, I think there were people demonstrating on the streets about the financial collapse of Greece, and there's their footballers staying down in Mshlanga in luxury. I thought that was interesting. Switzerland 150-1, Croatia, like I say, last one's through, 150-1. Ecuador 150-1. And then we come up the top, and where's Chile? Chile, having just beaten England 2-0 at Wembley, right? Yeah, with Sanchez scoring both goals. 66-1, and England at 25. This is shocking to me. I would love England to win it. I know they're not going to. And I look at Chile and Colombia, and I think, Brandon, maybe next week we'll have a look down there, mate, and have a little look at them.
Yeah, most definitely.
But this week, are you happy, Brandon? And I hope that Viv might be listening. He's in the airport at the moment. And Leon Petzer as well, hopefully listening. Shall we put our first £500, Maz, on Holland at 20-1 with World Sports Betting to win the World Cup in Brazil next year?
Yeah,
Maz is nodding.
You know
Maz is thumbs up.
At the end of the day, you're going to get a run for your money with Holland. I mean, they're always there and thereabouts in a World Cup. They're the World Cup finalists from the last tournament, and 20-1. They might just get an easy group and shorten, so it might be a good time to buy the 20-1. I think you guys might be right.
Good. Let's do it. Let's do that, Maz. That'll be our first choice. I will speak to Leon Petzer, I hope, a little bit later about the other two bets we're going to take. But Brandon, I don't know if you watched Kaiser Chiefs last night, but Kaiser Chiefs played Polokwane City. Booby Solomons has gone to Polokwane City. They were rock bottom when he got there. They had a caretaker in charge after Duncan Lacheza. Kaiser Chiefs last night, I thought, were magnificent. Right, Bernard Parker scored twice, a great header he got, making up for that infamous World Cup own goal. They won 4-1. I just wondered, have you got, hold on, APSA PSL? I'm just clicking.
The fixtures are up, but the betting's not out yet because they played last night.
That's right.
So I'm sure throughout the course of the day, the prices will come out. So don't discount Chiefs. I mean, they played very, very well. Just the PSL at the moment, so much cup football for Pirates. I don't know if they're a side that you can follow. Chiefs maybe are the side to follow. They've had less football over the last 2 months, than Pirates. And, I don't like betting in the PSL. The draw is always a factor in those games. You never know what side's going to turn up. And I think for value, you can look more at the English Premiership this weekend.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys. As I said, it's Leon's money, so he can put it wherever he wants to. But I think in the interest of charity, I would stay away from the PSL, especially this weekend. After all the cup football and the break that they've had, you don't know what side's going to turn up.
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen a league quite as open as this, especially when you've got Orlando Pirates down the bottom there having played 4 games and they're looking at this bottom to top situation. They're trying to shoot up the table after their African Champions League challenge. We're in a situation where no one seems to want to grab it firmly. Chiefs get beat by Ajax and then brilliant last night against Polokwane. And on the other hand, Polokwane beat Sundowns, who are top, after Sundowns had beaten Amazulu 6 or 7. So it's going to be a very, very open league. But so let's go. I mean, just to say briefly, Chiefs are at Free State Stars on Saturday. You've got Amatuks who have to win, things like that. There are some good bets to be had there, but you're right. I think let's go to the English Premier League. I'm pressing on soccer.
I've done a little bit of research there.
Yeah, go on.
A little bit of research for the guys. And I think this weekend that Arsenal against Cardiff, what a bet. I mean, 13-20 with Allen Bookmaker, 6-10 with World Sports Betting. Cardiff were lucky to equalise against Manchester United. They'll be on a high, but I just think Arsenal, they're going to stay at the top of the table this weekend, and I think they won't beat Cardiff. They'll give them a good hiding.
Brandon, you do realise that all that is music to my ears, don't you? Thank you.
Well, you know what? You know what? At the end of the day, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but they're doing what they need to do to pick up the 3 points every time, and that's the side you've got to follow at the moment. I think 13-20 with Allen Bookmaker, it's a steal, and I think they'll win.
I'm just typing that out so all my Twitter followers can see. I love it when someone says that about Arsenal. I sat there all the way through the Southampton game. If you remember, I didn't have much confidence last week about Arsenal-Southampton. Southampton, the surprise side in the Premier League this season. A lot of useful players that we don't really, journeyman-type lads who've come good. And I sat there with my, 1-0 and the Ozil. And I just thought, the Southampton going to come back at us here. And in the end, 2 goals from Giroud, won it 2-0, and it was much the same against Marseille with Jack Wilshere scoring both goals during the week. I think Cardiff are capable, particularly in Cardiff, of taking points off anyone, as they proved, obviously, against Man United. I think it's a brave bet. I don't think it's an obvious bet, but I'd be happy to put 500 rand on Arsenal to beat Cardiff. That's what we're saying, isn't it?
I can't read much into the Manchester United defence when Rio Ferdinand plays. I've said that to you before. It was his mistake again that cost Manchester United, and he's a red flag player for me, like I've said before. But
it was Evra that didn't jump. When the equaliser went in, it was Evra that didn't jump.
Yeah, it was Evra.
And poor old Rio got caught right in the middle of the frame. All the pictures show Rio Ferdinand kind of ducking and looking like he hasn't headed the ball. But actually, it was Evra that let the guy escape him for the equaliser, the very late equaliser, in what we used to call Fergie time. One stage, and poor old Rio 35. I mean, he occasionally we will actually exchange Twitters. I mean, he obviously has billions of people following him, but I think I've already made the point to him that there is someone somewhere in South Africa on a betting site at TopOdds red flags every game that he plays in. I think that's brilliant.
I mean, you have a look at it. Who are the central defenders against Cardiff? My friend Johnny Evans and my mate Rio Ferdinand.
Yes.
It was 2 goals conceded. So I don't think he's got that right at the moment. We'll have a look at the Man United-Tottenham game now because I think he can make money in that fixture as well because Tottenham just don't score goals. So Rio and Johnny Evans really don't have to do anything. But, sure. If you have a look at the Arsenal game once again, I mean, Arsenal played Southampton. If Southampton were playing Cardiff, I'd give Southampton a chance to get all 3 points. And that's the full line that I'm drawing through that game. And that's why I think Arsenal will be the good side in Southampton. Albeit they were at home. But they should. If they want to win the league and they want the challenge for this title, they need to beat Cardiff on Saturday, and I think they will.
Good. Well, obviously, I'm not going to argue with that, mate. I love my Gooners, and I think it would be great if they can just keep disposing of sides like Southampton and Cardiff and not dropping points while Man United are and Spurs are and Man City are. then possibly we could finally see the end of this trophy drought that goes back to the Man United penalty shootout 2005. It's been a long time for Arsenal, and they are playing, and they have played a good brand of football, but whether they can sustain it is another matter. Let's have a second bet. You got a second bet anywhere?
Yes, yeah, and this is the value bet of the weekend. As long as they don't play Rio Ferdinand or Johnny Evans at the back, just change one of them. Manchester United 18-10 with Lance Michael. And World Sports betting to beat Tottenham, a Tottenham side that can't score a goal.
Yeah.
I've
noticed. Well, they can score goals. When they give them dodgy penalties and Soldado steps up and sticks it away, Spurs can score goals. But apart from that, I have to agree. Although it's starting to get to the stage now where things have turned around for Arsenal fans in particular, where we're starting to hope that Man United drop a few points like they did last week. It's getting... But, yeah, okay. So you're saying Man United be Spurs official if Rio Ferdinand doesn't play?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you know what I think? Like I say to you, when you get nearly 2-1, what should be a top 4 Premier League side, I mean, you have to take it. I don't think Tottenham have got it together. I think Soldado, like you said, only scores from the penalty spot. And, I can't let that 18-10 pass me up. I'm going to have my money on. And I think for charity that TopOdds should have their money on there as well.
Good. Let's put it... So, I'll have my charity money. I'll have charity money on that. I'm just typing that out. Money on... Okay, Maz, Brandon. I can't argue with Brandon about Arsenal, and I can't argue on this one. I don't much like Tottenham Hotspur.
Brandon, what you're saying is the odds for Arsenal beating Cardiff is 6-1, 6-1.
No, 6.5 to 10. 6.5 to 10.
Oh, 6.5. Okay.
Yeah, if it was 6-1, I think I'd give you 10,000 rand for charity to put the money on.
Okay. Absolutely. Brandon, the thing is, I mean, Spurs last week against Manchester City, it was very hard as a lifelong Arsenal fan not to giggle quite a lot through that 6-0 walloping that Manchester City handed out to Spurs. This could be Andre Villas-Boas's last game in charge at Spurs. If they get done by Man United badly, I think that Spurs fans being Spurs fans, not the easiest of fans to please, and again, desperate for that place in the top 4, I think Spurs fans might start to really complain.
Yeah, but I think you think about it. I mean, the man's brought in 7 new players this season.
Yeah.
I mean, have a look at Liverpool last season. I mean, first season for Brendan Rodgers. I know it's Villas-Boas's second season, but he doesn't have the same side. He doesn't have Gareth Bale to go and rescue him. And Gareth Bale was a massive loss to Tottenham. I think when you get 100 million for a player, you're not letting a Jack Wilshere go. I mean, you're letting or beg your pardon, Aaron Ramsey, a Welshman who's outscored Bale at the moment, actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, they lost a massive talisman in Gareth Bale, and I just think that it takes time to replace a player like that. Manchester United went through it when Ronaldo left, and I think the fans will be a little bit understanding. It's always hard for Spurs to challenge the top 4, especially with the top 5 sides, being dominant as they've been. And they've been a little bit unlucky. So, he needs to get his goal scoring department right. I think they'll spend a little bit more in January. But, yeah, if they fire him. I just think, if that's the case, then he's gone because Manchester United will win this weekend.
Yeah, Gareth Bale, just by the way, wonderful free kick for Real Madrid last night. Bending free kick. We had a nice video of that, didn't we? Okay, Brandon, brilliant. So our 2 bets with Thumper Pigeon on Twitter, at Thumper Pigeon, with at TopOdds Compare on Twitter. 500 rand each on Arsenal to see off Cardiff, and Manchester United in the big game against Spurs, probably the most attractive game of the weekend. Man United to beat Spurs, says Brandon from TopOdds. We'll put 500 rand on those 2 games. Leon Petz is 500 rand. If we win, the money goes to Wings of Change. If we lose, Comfort and I bang our heads against the wall. Okay, Brandon, thank you for your help as always, mate. I mean, I was also going to talk Pro Tiers and Ashes and well, the rugby's just about over. I think there's a Barbarians game left, isn't there, in this international autumn, as they call it in the Northern Hemisphere. But thank you, Brandon. And I like both those bets. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of both of those coming to pass. And let's see where we go with the Wings of Change charity. Thank you, Brandon.
As long as I don't send any more Englishmen back from Australia, you can't stand the heat.
Mate, that's so unfair. I think we have to treat Jonathan Trott's injury as we would treat a hamstring or a broken nose. It's simply an injury, okay? And mate, don't, because I got quite involved in the Marcus Trescothick one and read a lot and did a lot of press conferences around that one. And, it's a genuine injury. I don't think it's a matter of I can't stand the heat. I think there are other stresses and strains. But I've seen what you bloody guys have been... You love it when Trotty fell apart. The Australians have been absolutely hammering me on Twitter about this. But I think when the Australian captain turns around to one of your players and says, next ball's going to break your arm, mate, that things are getting quite serious and quite stressful.
Yeah, and the Englishmen just can't take it. We understand. There are places on the soccer field. We know that.
Yeah. Great stuff, Brandon. Oi, mate.
Thanks a lot, Neil.
We'll talk Ashes next week, shall we? Cheers, mate. Thanks, Brand.
Cheers, bye.
That's Brandon from TopOdds.com. Also, Top Odds Compare on Twitter, @TopOddsCompare.
Visual Radio. Weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Radio like you've never seen it before. Balls.co.za